Well, hello people on YouTube, this is SaintAnger74, and I wanted to do a video. I wanted to do this for a pretty long time. I wanted to talk about my favorite music, because I'm constantly criticizing the music of today's society and what's mainstream and what's not, and what are the wrongs with it. Because basically all I have to say about today's mainstream is that it's awful, it's painful, it hurts my ears. And if it has to do with music and everyone listens to it, I won't. Just right away, instantly. That's like the most instant clue. How many people listen to this band or group or person, whatever, and if it exceeds a certain number, which would be considered mainstream, I just will not listen to it. I don't care what it is. I wanted to talk about my favorite music, kind of. And in this one, I want to talk about my favorite just album of all time. The backstory behind this one is when I was maybe 10 or 11, I had Rock Band 2. I finally got it, and I unlocked all the songs the fair and square way. I didn't use cheats, and I came across the song Panic Attack, and it was at the very bottom. It was like the hardest song for everything. For everything besides vocals, it had like 5 hearts. And then for vocals, it had just 5 regular black circles, which means it was still difficult. It was on the harder side. And that song was by far the longest song in the game. It was like 8 minutes, and the first time I played it, I decided to do it on like hard or expert, and I was like, Jesus! Like it was difficult. And then I finally got the hang of it, and I finally got like a little bit more familiar with the song. And then I look at the bottom, and there's always the cover art, and the cover art just looked really cool. Like on my screen was small, and the cover art they put in the corner is really small, so that doesn't help. But it looked kind of cool. It looked like these circles kind of in the sky, and they looked cool. But then one day at a basketball tournament, this happened when I was still playing rep basketball. At some tournament between the games, we were at a music store or something, and I just walk in, and I decide to look for it. I check the D section, the Dream Theater, and it's right there. Boom! I listened to it. This band was hard to digest at first. You don't really understand it when you listen to it at first. You can listen to it for free on Grooveshark. I'm not allowed to put any of their content on it. On this video, so I won't. But it's the greatest album of all time from my perspective, just because it's my favorite style, my favorite band, and it's their best album. It shows fully their capability of being a mature band. Like, the sound is just incredible on that album. I connected with a few songs right away, but now it's been like 2 years maybe since the first time I heard that album. And now I listen to it, and it just feels so right in every way. Octavarium, it starts off with a note that is tied in to the very, very last note of the previous album. That right there is just cool. That right there is so cool. Like, nobody that's mainstream does this. They don't tell stories through their albums. That's what I love about that album. It tells a story. So it starts off with the last note of the previous album. And from then on, Mike Portnoy's third song for his 5 songs for the 12-step suite starts. If you don't know what that is, basically a short story. It's 5 separate songs from 5 separate albums that are connected because they're on the topic of recovering from alcoholism, because that's what the drummer Mike Portnoy had. So yeah, the third song starts, and it just sounds so cool, especially the end. Like the end, the piano is so cool. The instruments themselves in the album, they're not overdone in any way. The drums sound better than the next 2 albums after it. And the guitar, the distortion doesn't seem like it's overdone. It doesn't seem like it's messing around with anything. The keyboard sounds, like the strings, the vocals, and just the piano that are done by the keyboards, they just sound so professional and so mature, and they sound so real. Like it's like really listening. If you take out all the guitar and drum tracks and vocal tracks and bass tracks, it will literally sound like you're listening to a symphony. Like, it's just so mature. The second song, The Answer Lies Within, is like it's just refreshing. Like after the first song, it's a little heavy, so the second song it just refreshes you. It just feels like you're just taking a bath in like pure sunlight, and like the wind's warm, and it's like sunny outside, and you're alone in like the nature, and you're just sucking it all in. Because the sound effects also in the background of the album just make it so cool. Like you're just bathing in sunlight. Like that song, that's how it makes me feel. Like it just feels really, really bright, really nice. The third song, These Walls, it has very, very nice harmony, backed up by mad freaking hi-hat skills from Mike Portnoy. Like ridiculous hi-hat and ride cymbal skills. Like that guy has chops. People recently have been trash-talking Mike Portnoy. I disagree with all of you. I think that with him, Dream Theater will always have been better. They can't be better with Mangini because Mike Portnoy, he's not a better drummer, but he's just the greatest progressive musician to ever live. Okay, his music is legendary. These Walls, the third song, is back on the heavy side. It's more powerful. The vocals are more they're more expressive. And all in all, the song flows really, really well. It's not too complicated of a score. The next song, I Walk Beside You, is a more digestible song. If you want to start off the album with something that you can understand, listen to I Walk Beside You. It still kind of has that edgy tone, but at the same time, it just sounds like a really, really kind of alternative type of song. It has that bright tone again. It's in a major key, so there won't be any sad like death or anything in there. Very good song. Then comes Panic Attack. Panic Attack is just it's probably the best heavy song by Dream Theater ever written. Now probably the best lighter songs are on different albums, but the heaviness was nailed to perfection on that album. Panic Attack was just beautiful in every way because the time shifts make sense. Everything makes sense, and it all just flows so well. The guitar and keyboard solos were just brilliantly made, and that's what I think of that. The next song, Never Enough, it's like it's like I don't know how to explain that song. It's it's not difficult to understand, but at the same time, it shows kind of Dream Theater skill. It shows their skill in making complicated songs that still flow together and they work. It's another heavy song. For the rest of the album, it kind of turns heavy. Like the second and fourth song were the lighter songs, and after that it just turns heavy. And Never Enough is the middle kind of class of the heavy songs. It's actually like a lighter heavy song. It's still distorted. There's all that kind of stuff going on, but it's you have to listen to it to understand. I really can't explain that song. Sacrifice Sons. Now that's a tribute to 9/11. Surprisingly, nothing in that fashion was done in the previous album, Train of Thought, unless you consider the last song, In the Name of God, kind of talking about it because it still talks about terrorism because of religion. But that's not. It wasn't really about 9/11. It was more about like actual religious terrorism. It wasn't about like destroying the towers or anything. Sacrifice Songs like directly just attacks that idea. It's a direct attack on the idea from the first minute, from the introduction with all the voices from the newscast and stuff, and like the Arabic talking in the background. You automatically know that that's the song about 9/11. I knew it the first time I listened to it, and what's beautiful about that song is it gradually progresses into a more difficult and like an epic piece. Like it starts off soft, starts off really quiet. The first verse, second verse, and chorus. They're all lighter. They're slower, and there isn't as much going on, and the drumming is simple. But then all of a sudden, there comes a break where the instrumental section starts, and that's where things start to build. That's where the awkward time signatures come in. And after that, the song becomes faster, and then the drum solo at the end of the song is just absolutely legendary. You have to see it you have to hear it to believe it. It's epic. Okay, that's Sacrifice Sons for you. It's a moving song. It's supposed to be dramatic. The final song of the album, Octavarium, 24 minutes. The length of that song might be off-putting, but if you have 25 minutes to spend, and if you just plug in your headphones, tune everything out, and listen to that song just on its own all the way through, it will feel like the most correct song you have ever listened to in your life. It might be arguable with the Count of Tuscany from the last Mike Portnoy album, but that song just takes you kind of on a journey of its own. It summarizes the first 7 songs, which continues with the storytelling of the album, and it summarizes those songs, and yet it still has its own sections. And especially just when the drums start to come in, not halfway through when it becomes more of an instrumental, but when parts 1 and 2 of the song, it's divided into 4 parts, by the way. When parts 1 and 2 start, the drumming is just so light and so gentle, but at the same time, there's one drum fill at I forget the section of the song, what it's called. It's like Diagnosis or something, like it has to do with like a doctor. And anyways, when you listen to that song, you'll understand. There's just like one drum fill on the hi-hats and splashes that just like, I listen to it and I'm like, this is what I live for. Like it's just amazing what these guys can do in Dream Theater. And then the rest of the song, there's more odd time signatures than the other songs because it has to be more complicated to fill those 24 minutes. But at the same time, it still doesn't feel like it's overdone. And then gradually progresses into heavier until it just climaxes at about the 20-minute mark. And then after that, the conclusion is just an epic final verse with a guitar solo. Like, what better way to make an album? Another thing, talking about the structure of the album. The songs themselves are meticulously arranged. Like the keys from the songs, from song 1 to 8, go F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. They make a full circle, and there's at least one measure in each song that corresponds with its track number over 8. So the first song has at least one bar, 1/8. The next song has 2/8. The next song has 3/8, 4/8, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. That makes another loop. The last words of the album, the last words in Octavarium, the story ends where it begins, takes the album back to the beginning. Like the last part of the song kind of has, in the background, if you listen carefully, it has the numbers like 1. And then it plays a really quiet part from that song. 2 plays a quiet part from that song, if you listen to it carefully in the background. And that's just so awesome how it just summarizes it. And then the final note happens. And then quietly in the background, the piano plays again that F, that one note which the album started with. And you could literally take that album and listen to it over and over and over and over again. And it'll just be brilliantly correctly made work of art. For me, that album, without a doubt, is just so much better than anything else I've listened to in my life. People can argue all these like Led Zeppelin, Beatles, and albums and stuff, but for me, the album that takes me on like the journey of like musical awesomeness has to be Octavarium by Dream Theater. So good. I don't know. You have to listen to the album, and you have to listen to it more than once. The problem with people, they listen to something once, and they don't like it. Listen to it more than once. Listen to it until you understand it, and then you'll figure out all these little teeny things that just make the album so freaking great. Now, I've been talking for 15 minutes. Time to end the video. Hope you enjoyed. If you want more kind of music reviews, if you want kind of more just media reviews in general, I'd be glad to do those. Please leave me comments. Please leave me likes, shares, favorites, subscriptions, and all that fun stuff. And yeah, thanks for watching. See you guys later. Goodbye.